anyone with any thoughts or questions, corrections? Yes.
Yeah, so I just recently read a passage in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna mentioned about the connection in terms of hierarchy, the self, the Atma, the soul, the intelligence, the mind, the senses, and then the senses, collect data from the environment. So it sounds like the intelligence is the highest, and then the soul is higher. What about consciousness? You just referred to. Is it like an attribute of the soul? It radiates out of the soul, and is it spiritual by nature, or is part of the material product? Because there's a subtle body that includes the mind, the intelligence, and the senses, and this and that. So is this consciousness in the realm of the spiritual self?
Yes.
And also another sub-question is, in devotional service, in bhakti yoga, we often refer to the heart. Of course, I'm not talking about the physical organ, the heart, but obviously the heart is really important for our practice. So where does the heart come into place in this? There's so many aspects of the self.
Yeah. No, thank you for your question. Yeah, that's very good. We'll start with the heart.
Okay.
Because at the heart of the matter. So this you can understand. When we speak, we all refer to me. Talking about me. I mean, if you're really sassy, you could do me. But you hardly find people, you talking to me? So everybody goes, me. Why the heart area? So it is described that the soul is suspended in these pranic airs in the region of the heart.
The chakra area.
So, therefore, it broke my heart. You feel pain really in there, especially when it's deep. It's like, ouch. Now you scratch your car on a hump. So, yes, that means that 1/10,000 tip of a hair, spark of life, are in this area of the heart. And consciousness is the energy that is radiating from that spiritual spark. It is an attribute, so you could say we are the consciousness and we're qualified by our consciousness. Like sometimes they say this guy is low consciousness. So the quality of the activity then describes them as being low awareness. Same time it's an energy of the self that allows awareness for that particular body that one has been placed in. So yes, at the top of the hierarchy is the user, the soul. Sometimes we just say consciousness because it's more in vogue, more. We say the soul, then we're fighting with the Christian. And I was like, okay, the spirit that God, So the life force is in charge of the subtle matter and gross matter, the non-living part of who we are. Did I cover both?
Yeah. So in
where's
other
the
words,
heart in this analogy?
the heart
There's one
really
part.
refers to the soul and its symptom, which is the consciousness.
Yes.
Kind of like that. So it's not really like the organ. It's just
and it just so
to the
happens
self, the Atma.
to be around also the organ. So instead of that organ, the energies that are flowing through the body. Because it's.
And intelligence, is it material, or is it a material product that is controlled by the consciousness, or?
It's defined as subtle matter.
Subtle.
So it's like actually when the impulses to indulge come up, then you would need the intelligence to sort of block you from indulging. It's supposed to be like the security guard. It's the next door neighbor. But then, you know, anyone who's trying to attack, you got your guard outside, they snipe him first. And once the guard is out, then the criminal is got full entry. So therefore, the books of wisdom are giving us spiritual intelligence. It's like strong, vigilant, 24/7. So that whatever attacks from our lower expression in terms of sensual history and just conditioning. Yeah, so the intelligence is subtle matter. It's a tool of the soul.
So you mentioned that the consciousness of the soul, sometimes this state that it's in the body, it's that a harsh word to use would be trapped, but some people don't feel trapped. But my question is there any, like, for what reason would the consciousness find itself in such a material, hard world? Not hard, but like dense world. Is there uses, or is there like some sort of benefits, or is there reason for this?
Yeah, it's kind of like how people find themselves in jail.
Mm-hmm.
But like, yo, there's a whole free country. Why are you in jail? Well, they're jail, prisons. There's a desire to enjoy something, to explore, experience something. And so, to experience and explore an independent existence from the Supreme Soul, this place and all the vehicles are provided. So you could try American life, you could try like higher planetary life, lower planetary life, you could try tree life, rabbit life. So you could say it's a place that is to facilitate one who wants to veer off from a loving relationship with the Supreme, who wants to be the center of attraction, of attention, wants to be a separate enjoyer. But once now that we're here and that we see that these adventures are not so cool, yeah, we're trying to get parole. Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, it is actually a trap. You feel trapped, although it's a beautiful trap, the human body, because it's got the facility for getting out of the prison. Like here we are asking the right questions, trying to apply ourselves for a higher type of consciousness. Is that okay?
I liked so much what you said about the traffic lights, and I was wondering how you deal with, so maybe like some judgment that comes along with other people's conditioning, because it's like, maybe that's not your true self, but the covering is still there, and then people have the reaction to that.
Yeah, it's one of those like tough breaks of life in embodied life. That sometimes your embodiment or your psychological embodiment is not popular, or is deemed strange, or so then people really try to make you feel you're different. Yeah. And until we're able to really value ourselves as the spiritual being that we are, and we value our connection to the Supreme Person and the persons of the free world, it will always weigh heavy on us what the fellow inmates think. Yeah. Prabhupada, who translated these books, he spoke of when the carriage is going down the road, so many dogs come and they bark, woof, 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 woof. But the carriage, doesn't stop. So the dogs just eat the dust. They realize now they're stuck behind the fence and the carriage goes on. So we need to get that muscle back of really treasuring our essence. People, it's a bit difficult to change them, and And we tend to be like that when we ourselves are lacking in our own sense of identity. That we look for all the differences and we highlight them to pull down others. So everyone gets some sort of tribe where you feel sheltered. So you're chanting Hare Krishna. This is one muscle building technology, and it works. Yeah, it works. Thank you.
Unconditional love. Please talk about unconditional love. Everybody say something. I want to hear.
Okay, unconditional love. I'm so disqualified for that topic.
Me too. You're not alone.
Yeah, I think we should not allow ourselves to be discouraged about that, because just as our heart is like pumping for immortality, like we don't want to die, and at the same time our heart is like pumping towards mortality. The body has to die. So we're getting shortchanged in the area of love, but still we crave it. So we need the type of association that encourages cultivation of actual love, or at least we start to hear of it more, so that we can try to step into that realm, because it's a spiritual principle, love, actually. But it's been so misused. It's like people, I love Coca-Cola. You can't tell me I don't love Coca-Cola. But Coca-Cola is not sentient. You may love it, but it does not love you. Love is between living sentient beings. It's reciprocal. And even that reciprocation that we experience in our attempts at love, because we are unqualified to actually reciprocate at the level of the need, what we get is like love that's just bruised and battered. It's lust with the hoodie on. But it's a very good hoodie, you get it. And therefore you're just like, oh, you're just the right person. But in there it's just that dude, just like just waiting, So the more we sort of get to understand that we're dealing with people who are not qualified, we're not qualified, therefore we're all shortchanging each other and creating this bitter taste in each. Yeah, then we can start to look towards the land of love. What are the dealings there? How are they transacting? Then we start to appreciate actually consciousness free from this lust. And then we can aspire towards it. Then what you'll find as sort of principles, guidelines, rules that come with our spiritual practice then are not such a drag, because they're just like rehab. You want to be free and love freely, but when you free and try to love freely in these streets, you know what's going on. And so you surrender yourself at a rehab because the drugs are doing you wrong. So surrender that freedom so that you're rid of the thing that's abusing you, so you gain freedom, your health back. So we are surrendering ourselves to the processes of rehabilitating our ideas of who we are and what love is, purifying ourselves so that we can enter into a higher order of existence where that love can be experienced.
I don't know if I may. In a lot of occasions, it's like I don't know, somewhere down the, you know, that there's that expression, sweet surrender, right? So in some moments they tell you, you know, the sweetly surrender to the lotus feet of the master, right? And sometimes I'm like, okay, so my master shows up in the beautiful people, shows up in the monks, shows up in the people that come to the temple, shows up in the annoying people of New York City, like really like doing their best to like not only piss my brains off, but everybody else's brains off. And at the same time, I'm just like, okay, but if all of them are the master, and I should, you know, offer my unconditional love to the master in his representation of, I mean, through everyone, that's where my my heart and my head sometimes goes like to the bursting point, right? I'm married myself, right? So. And I say this with all sweetness and love in my heart. I trust her. I adore her. She's the best of the best. I will never say less than that. But the same way that I have, you know, my character of challenging her, she does the same, you know, in this direction. So, and not only her, my siblings as well, you know what I mean? There's moments in which I just simply say, and you just said something very powerful, being like the carriage in the middle of the road and the dogs barking just behind it, like, because they're only eating the dust of my steady forward movement. But my steady forward movement is so difficult sometimes because for me it's like, okay, my wife, my mom, my father, how can I just keep, you know, steadily moving forward and just offering that willing, detached love, which I'm gonna say, detached as in unconditional, and still, you know, not have a moment of like, oh my God, I'm caving in. I would love them to love me. I would love them to approve of me. Like for me, that is super freaking difficult. But the part where the sweet surrender comes in for me sometimes, and when I say sweet, it's like I'm like in tears, like, oh my God, like I can't do this shit no more. And I'm just like, you know what? Focus. That's all you need to do, regardless. And still, I can do it, but it's very painful sometimes. And I offer, and I give, and I give, and I give. But the painful part is like, but I would love just a little bit of this from them. And just like, you know, like Ash, it's okay, Ash, you know, I love you. And I know not all the people express their love in such ways. But it's tough. That's what I'm trying to say. And in New York City, it's like, you know, you want to be seen, you want the attention too, and you want to be loved. And it gets to that point where it slaps you on the face so hard.
Yes.
And I don't know, the unconditional label of it, unconditional love, it can be a subject of lifetimes of conversation to
Yes.
yeah.
I just wanted to, I mean, really, thank you for sharing this, because I'm sure everyone in the room can really identify most of what she's saying. I just want to touch on one aspect though. That was good. Just like timing. Was that with unconditional love, it's not just blind and guided, you know, like you're saying. Although we are all expressions of that, but we are not all, at this point, deserving and able to digest love. We don't even really, yeah. So if you give pearls to swine, they say, yeah. But then sometimes the swine is you, your family member. You know what I mean? It's like, so that point of detached love is that it's informed. You try your best, but then you can understand the person is maybe not capable or doesn't love in that way, so it doesn't come. So that's what makes it tough, because there's a cord of affection there, there's a relationship with some of them, yeah, and it can cause pain. Yes.
Well, my biggest issue in this earthly plane is that love on this material plane, it's so close to lust, because it can never really last forever, per se, right? So when I imagine love being something that only an eternal being can really give. Because like, for example, I think about, can you love a cockroach? Like some entity must love a cockroach because it exists somehow and it continues to exist. And some entity must love.
I try not to kill them.
I'm
being honest. I try not to
But
kill
some
them.
entity must love the cockroach enough to shape it, make its form, right? So like, I feel like that's how we kind of have to think about unconditional love, being that love that we can give to even the most harshest, most ugliest thing that we perceive as ugly, but someone who can give that kind of love sees it as some kind of beautiful thing, right? But that to really channel that in ourselves is hard, right? And it kind of takes a kind of devotion that the understanding on this material plane wouldn't really mesh in my head.
So what we would say to that, and it's so true, I found it so profound, that somebody created all the things that even we think are like repulsive, maybe beings. So somebody must love the road for it to continue to live. Even nuclear can survive. So I wanted you to bring to light the idea of then the Supreme is able to love unconditionally and knows everyone eternally. So we are just tasked to try to be like a via medium, an instrument of that love. Like if we try to become that person who can love at that level, then we'll just burn out. But the more we try to be instruments of that type of unconditional love, it rubs off on us. We get the capacity to love a little more. That would be cool. It's like keep going. That's too cool.
Yeah, so everybody enjoy and put a little Kirtana on and we can kind of get to know each other a bit.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare